Y'all, welcome back to the best podcast on the planet. Why is it the best podcast? Because I'm the best podcast host. It's the one, the only Cody Verdant, Marshall Kelly himself, Mr. CVMK. I'm super excited. I'm excited about all my guests, but I'm really excited about this one. We have an amazing person, an amazing topic, something that needs to be discussed, because I feel like with everything that's going on with unjustifiable wars to just the economy just being haywire, what about the people, that are in prison? What about the forgotten populace? Whether you agree, people need to be treated humanely. What does prison reform look like? Should prison be in the conversation? Like I said I had a conversation. I said, I believe in discipline, but I also believe in mercy. Right? As a believer, as a Christian, my job is to love and to forgive as, the Lord has forgiven us. At the same time, that doesn't mean that people should go haywire. And there is a balance. But I believe, as I said before, hell is reserved for a very special audience. Prison should be the same way. And I don't believe everybody qualifies. So what does reform? What does reformation look like? And then when these people get there, how do we make them better? How do we revitalize? How do we help so that we don't recreate the harm, right? So we brought in a subject matter professional in this, Kim Nugent, absolutely for this. I'm gonna read her bio in a little bit. But before we get into that, before I ruin the episode, all right, I wanted to talk to y'all. You guys have been amazing. I got an email today. You guys have been blowing up the podcast. 500,000 views in the last couple of months. You guys have been fantastic. I want to thank you. For those that have not subscribed, because it's great to watch it, but I need you to do something. It's free. You don't have to pay for it, but it's the gift that keeps giving. I just need you to go to YouTube right now. Click subscribe. One word, 4 letters, CVMK. It's literally my initials, Cody Vernon Marshall Kelly. You can't get any clearer than that. CVMK, click subscribe, stay up to date with us. Our website for the podcast is coming out soon. I actually met with our websiter today. So you'll see that. We'll have a newsletter. We'll stay engaged, but I want you to stay with all of our content. And then where the supplements are, guys, CVMK Global.store, the best supplements. So follow us on the socials at _CVMK_show on Instagram, or the.CVMK.show on TikTok, and then CVMK Global, basically everywhere for the supplements. Guess what I have with us? The one, the only Samson. Man! Summer is right around the corner. I was outside today in Chicago. It was 80 degrees. I'm telling you, sometimes you just need a little help, need a little testosterone boost, clear the belly fat, make you feel like you used to feel at 21. 3 little vegan capsules right here. Goes a long way. And where all the supplements are, from our pre-workouts to our creatine, super thick, that you'll see an ad for in a few sections. Everything is at www.cvmkglobal.store. When I return, and I shall return, we'll be back with the one, the only Kim Nugent. Dr. Kim, I'm sorry. I read her bio as Dr. Kim. I apologize. Dr. Kim, after this.
The limit. From the heart of the Chi, where grit meets grace. Leaders shake hands, fighters push limits, voices rise with faith, and culture moves the streets. This is news, fitness, and perspective with an edge. Raw, executive, unapologetically Chicago. Welcome to the CVMK Show.
All right, let me read her bio. Is this somebody worth noting? I want to show you that I can read, that Illinois public schools do have merit. Dr. Kim Nugent is a certified coach through Marshall Goldsmith and the ICF, and mastery consultant with the Brave Thinking Institute. Dr. Kim is a well-known expert in leadership, staff, and faculty development. Dr. Kim can help you create a life that you love living, specializing in helping people build their dreams, accelerate their results, and create a richer, more fulfilling lives. For over 30 years, Dr. Kim has been studying and implementing transformational success principles as a sought-after speaker, trainer, certified coach. Her workshops, coaching programs help people break through limitations and achieve greater results than they've ever known before. Before joining Harris Health, Dr. Kim worked in higher education, starting as a faculty member and eventually becoming university president. Her career began in the hospitality industry, where she has spent 20 years in various roles, including general manager of the Hilton College Hotel and the Lancaster Hotel, as well as divisional manager in Hilton Hotels Operations and Sales and Marketing. Dr. Kim is also a nine times best-selling author. She's earned a doctorate in education and an MBA and a master's of science in instructional design, online learning, and a master's of science in human resources and a bachelor's degrees in hotel and restaurant management. When she is not working at Harris Health, she dedicates her paid time off to working in prisons and jails in Mississippi, Florida, and Texas. Implementing her curriculum, she works to inmates to lead, train the trainer programs, to mentor small groups, and her goal is to enhance their employability skills and develop a robust plan for their release. CVMK Tribe and Family, help me welcome Dr. Kim. Dr. Kim, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Cody, for asking.
No problem. It is an absolute honor. I got to give you applause. It is an absolute honor to have you here. Amazing bio, amazing work, and amazing dedication to something that, you know, I don't even think it's because people are mean. I think sometimes we overlook what we don't want to see, right? And to accomplish everything and to do what you've done, and then in your spare time, focus on a very vulnerable populace. Why?
So that's really easy for me to answer, is because I don't know when it started, but I definitely believe in second chances. I may have, and that was early on, probably. Maybe it was the way I grew up. I'm not really sure, but I definitely saw it in higher education. You might not think so, but every student who enrolls in the university doesn't graduate.
Yeah.
And as long as I've been doing this work, I can't tell. I can look at you and you can tell me lots of great things, but at the end of the day, proof is in the pudding. And sometimes students who struggle the most actually walked across the stage at graduation, and other people you would think they would make it, they didn't. But what I believe, like the university setting, what it really taught me more than anything else, working with faculty and staff, is it's an opportunity for students to learn and make mistakes. And they will. And we've got to have forgiveness around that. And that applies really with everybody. And one of the things that you said, I think that's really important in the very beginning, is this is a very much forgotten population. They deserve dignity and respect regardless. Yes, are they there to serve their time? But I will tell you, there is such an incredible group of talented people inside prisons not developed. And one of the places where we can make the biggest impact in the United States is having consistent programming across every single state jail and prison. And it doesn't have to be my program. It can be any program, because we need to fill idle time. But these men in particular, I work with men mostly, and that is that when they learn, they always do better. They always rise to the expectations. I have never been disappointed, ever. And it's just so thrilling. And I've done a lot of amazing things in my life, and it's been awesome. But this is the most important work I think I've ever done. And it's definitely the most rewarding. And it's the most complicated.
I believe it. I believe it's the most complicated. I want to go there because, first of all, thank you so much for being an unsung hero and doing these things that are really going to help society, help America, help the world, and something that needs to be spotlighted. I always say that, and I do believe the scriptures are correct. The Bible says that the little foxes spoil the vine. And when Solomon wrote that, I wonder, was he referring to these problems that seem like a societal existential threat that happened in a very small siloed experiment? And what I mean by that, like, I really believe that as the family goes, as education goes, so does the world. And when institutions are not funded, when they're attacked, when teachers aren't paid, and I said this, and I like athletes. I mean, I love sports, but I really want to see $1 million teacher I really want to see, like, it's great to, see the NFL draft and the NBA draft, WNBA draft, and I'm seeing these athletes are so deserving of it. But there's teachers that are deserving of it. I would love to see, draft night, like the best educators in America, and they're highly paid, and it sends a message like you don't have to be able to run 100 miles per hour to live this lifestyle, right? But because it has not been a priority, and it is really the foundation to all things in society, it creates this. Because I don't care I don't care what anybody says. When this fails, the increase to prison pipeline increases as well, right?
Absolutely. I think it even starts a little bit before then. So, I heard one of your other episodes, and I believe it was your pastor, if I'm not mistaken, who was really talking about sort of this cultural divide, and this has been around for a really long time. But let's go back to the beginning. So the most simplistic explanation, which we've known for a very long period of time, if we had taken, I'm not going to say all, but much of the prison dollars that we use today and actually change the direction and put it in Head Start, for example. Head Start program first. That's one pivotal intervention point. The second one would be what the studies actually say: if children cannot read at grade level by third grade, they're probably not going to graduate from eighth grade. Now, that's something that where volunteers could go into schools and read books and get people excited, take them to the library. Like, there's so many little things that could help along the way. When I think about from the time you're born until you die, there are intervention points all along the way where we could really make a difference. Another thing is working with youth. Maybe they don't have a dad around, for example. The thing that I have learned, and you can tell from my background, I'm always curious. I'm always learning. I can't get enough information. I just love that part. And every day I get the opportunity to learn more and more and more about where we're lacking in terms of prison reform. But having said that, what I have a better understanding of today than I think I ever have, and that's because I have listened to a lot of experts out there, and I've talked to the men. I work in maximum security prisons for the most part. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, somebody in your audience is thinking, I really just don't understand how these people can get into trouble, and I don't understand. I get that, except that your comparison is however you were raised.
Right.
And that is not, in most cases, how these people were raised. So what happened is, from my experience so far, and it's not the end all be all, I'll be the first to admit that they experienced trauma early on in their life. Now, trauma can be a lot of things for people, but it wasn't one time. It wasn't even 4 times. It was over and over, where a lot of different things could have happened to them. Maybe they were not in a loving family. Maybe, there were drugs in the family. Maybe it was a single family. Maybe it was, mom is working 3 and 4 jobs just to put food on the table. Like, there's a whole lot of things going on. And maybe they had extra time and ran with the wrong crowd. And maybe the wrong decision, wrong event, wrong time, all of those things. But having said that, there weren't resources to be able to help them when that trauma happens, because the system is overloaded. And that is really true. And so what happens is, I always write, I think it's the first page of my book, and I actually put in there, by the grace of God, I have never been in prison. But for all of us, I think we think that that's something that would never happen to us. But the truth of the matter, it doesn't really work that way. Yeah. Now, are there people who have patterns and absolutely belong there and should, stay there for a very, very long time? Absolutely. We're not talking about that. But we are saying, if I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong person or the wrong circumstance, I could very easily end up in prison. So you still might argue with me and say, Kim, that's not even possible. Well, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, I'm driving, it's late at night, I have a car accident, police officer comes, whatever happens. I may be let go, maybe I get maybe they're taking me to jail, who knows what's going to happen. But I don't have any control in that moment about the people who are involved in the situation, who are of authority. And so I think that's something else to think about. But the other thing that I think about often is the fact when am working in a prison and I'm walking from, let's say, one building to another. And so I'm walking across the yard, if you will. And if there's an event or something, the average size of a prison is 1,800 to 2,000 in most cases. And so many people will be out, right? Hundreds of people will be out. And now I'm only seeing hundreds. I'm not even seeing 2,000 people, but imagine 2,000 people. Just say 10%. Let's be conservative. Sure. 10% of those people want to do better, want to learn, want to have the opportunity, who definitely have made a decision to turn their life around. They've done something about that. Usually it's some kind of spiritual intervention first and foremost, because that's really the only way. And then when they leave, well, look at what the country's suffering from right now. We have a labor shortage since COVID.
Yes.
In every industry. And I guess what I really like is if we were holistically looking, by industry, would some industries consider developing a program where we have a pipeline of people who really want to work and want to do better and have a family and have a home and do all those things? It would be not easy, but it would certainly be a win-win.
This is where I want to, and I think you hit it upon. He talks about the trauma, as the old adage, say hurt people. But trauma has a weird way of creating unluckiness, right? Mm-hmm. And I think your example hit it dead on. You talked about getting pulled over. A lot of the stuff, that sometimes you get away with, and I hate to say it, as you get older, he was like, man, I was just young and dumb teenager.
By the grace of God.
By the grace of God, right. But for somebody else, it was a nightmare, right? Sure. And you start thinking like, wow, it really could have went differently. Is it lawmakers? Like, how do we get a more humane evaluation? Because I don't really know. This is a perfect example. I live in Chicago. I think this is a great example. Chicago has had a lot of interesting historical development, good and bad. It is like any other place, but it is uniquely Chicago. And so we had a state, so the history is an over-policing of certain communities and all this stuff happened. Okay, then we get a state's attorney, not name names, and then the argument is, well, we have under-policing. Now car thefts has gone up. We had a famous trial that somebody got it staged, or allegedly, not have, but allegedly staged a crime. So, and then you get the inverse effect, and it's like, which one is worse? And it's like we can't find a balance between how we should go about dealing from initial engagement to the actual judicial sequence is very, very confusing. Is it confusing because we don't care, or is it profitable to have chaos?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Yeah. One of the things I think is, I am going to answer the question, but I'm going to start before that, which is sort of maybe we don't care.
Okay.
Where I can point to that, you may or may not know this, but 59% of all streaming media today has to do with true crime shows.
Oh, wow.
And so let's just take that. There's a fascination in the United States about that. I totally get it, right? But nobody ever asks what happens after. When a person is convicted, processed and then convicted, and goes on. They're few and far between, and I know what those shows are, but that's not a really good representation of what's actually occurring. I can assure you of that.
Sure.
That's the first thing. I think the other thing, though, is as you were talking, I had this thought. I've never had this thought yet. Up until now, I've not had this thought.
Love it.
But I think what's missing in the United States in terms of prison reform is we haven't gotten to a tipping point, and we haven't even gotten to a tipping point because there's no consistency from state to state to state. There is no consistency whatsoever. And I want to be really fair
Sure.
So we have some amazing people working inside these facilities that every day they want innovation and transformation and rehabilitation. And we also have the opposite of that too. And I've seen that as well. What I mean by that is sometimes people ask me, and I don't believe in saying everybody. That's not true of anything. You know, everybody is not good or bad or anything else, you know, if we start to get to know people. But facilities today that really want that, it always starts with senior leadership. Whoever that warden is, or, you know, whoever, if it's a private prison company, they have to actually want that, or the state has to want it and believe that there's a better way. And there are good people doing good work, but it's, here's the but, 50% of facilities across the United States have no programming. Now, pretend for a moment you're running this facility.
Yeah.
You have no programming.
Yeah.
You know, you're feeding them, you're making sure they have a place to stay, and they get an hour outside, and that's it. And you think that's your job. Well, the interesting thing is they have 23 hours approximately of idle time. So you choose idle time where they can think of more things to learn that are not positive, or programming where they can create a better version of themselves so they are the best when they leave. And what most people don't know is 93% of people in prison today, we have almost over 2 million, are coming home one day. So you decide who you want to be your neighbor. And the reason I say it that strongly is because I know that there's many people who believe, lock them up, throw away the key, I don't want to know anything about it, fine. Except that it's not fine, because one day they are going to come back. Yeah. And, you know, they may be in your neighborhood. So I'd like to have a neighbor that has really had some kind of spiritual transformation. That's my personal belief, that that's where things really begin to happen. Yeah. And then after that, having lots of opportunities. And not everybody needs a GED in a prison. We have well-educated people. And that's the other thing, is one size doesn't fit all. So you've got to think about the population. You've got to think about what is the need. You got to think about your community. Are they staying in your community? What is the industries that really need employees? And could we do a certification program, or an apprenticeship program, or an internship program? Or could we do on-site something to be able to help them? Because they're hungry for this.
I agree. I want to go. Look, we're going to talk about the transformation. What does programming look like? I got a couple ads. Y'all, we'll get back. We have the one, the only Dr. Kim after this quick word.
There's a hero in all of us, waiting to be unleashed. All it takes is just that one last push. Activate the hero within with CVMK Global Supplements. All natural, steroid-free, designed to enhance performance, build muscle, and increase energy. You are unstoppable. You can do this. Become your own hero at www.cvmkglobal.store.
Creatine means for me being able to replenish back into what I burn out. So it helps me stay solid. It helps me keep my body toned and strengthening my muscles and my bones as well. The Super Thick definitely helps me keep focused. It gives me energy as I'm fueling through my workouts, replenish all of the energy that I lost. It helps rebuild that muscle mass, so everything that I'm putting in is not for waste. If you're looking to find these products, you can find them at cvmkglobal.store. Grab them now. Trust me, you won't be disappointed.
Y'all, get your creatine today. Get Super Thick. I'm telling you, best creatine on the market. 5 grams creatine monohydrate. We have third-party tested this stuff. It's amazing. No blow. Super Thick. Get it today. Use code CVMK for 20% off. www.cvmkglobal.store. And the pre-workout. I need you to get super power. Look, if you're like me and you work and you have to do all this stuff and you have take care of family and you got to go to church, you're going to be tired when you go to the gym. Either if you do it early in the morning or you do it in the evening, you're going to be tired, and coffee doesn't solve everything. So One Scoop pre-workout, Tropical Sunrise is the flavor, y'all. Superpower, get it today. www.cvmkglobal.store. So programming is absolutely essential. goes deeper because, you know, my grandma used to say, "An idle mind is the devil's workshop." It wasn't biblical, but it definitely is a true saying, right? And even in schools, I think as a society, we're having a hard time implementing true curriculum, what it should look like, how it should be implemented, how it should be taught, how do we administer it, to the point that I think people have just quit trying. I've seen it in churches, kind of the lack of vision, right? Like, what do we do with the youth, right? Like, what do we do with the youth? Like, that's, you know, but to even ask that, like, what are we doing? And it really boils down to a couple things, or a few things. I think because the cost of living and the cost of doing everything has skyrocketed unjustifiably. Like, we don't have an explanation of why bread is $3 or why milk is $4. You know, we have just as many cows. You know, like, so it's not a cow shortage. And if you don't do dairy, then it adds the alternative sources, which you would think would drive down the price of dairy. So it can't be that, right? Because of the rising cost, because of what it really takes to be consistent in actually implementing it, and because of an increase, and you said that stat that you shared with me made me think, what does this digestion of you know, violent aligned media, like, what does this mean for us in the long term, has created this kind of, you know, nonchalant view of everything, just kind of, all right, whatever. So when it comes to prison reform specifically, and because we don't really have anything for them to do other than to be imprisoned, we basically make the situation worse. As someone who has dedicated their life and their energy and their resource to this, how do we, I guess the question is, as a community, get involved so that there can be? Because I guess the other thing is, we don't know. I don't even know how to help. You know, like, hey, so how do we actually go about that?
Mm-hmm. I think there are simple ways. So you don't have to volunteer in prison. Let's start with what can you do from home.
Okay.
So the simplest thing to do, quite frankly, is to write your senator or congressperson and ask them to put programming into the facilities, into the prisons. That would be a simple thing. Maybe. A second thing could be, if you're an employer, consider being a second chance employer. Another thing could be, if you have an apartment complex or something, and maybe in the past you've never thought about allowing someone to demonstrate that they could be a good person on your property, and take one chance, just one chance. You know, I mean, we're not saying open up everything, but just, you know, be responsible at the same time. You still have a business to run. Sure. Another thing could be, and you might be surprised I'm about to say this, but honestly, churches have a place. Now, what I mean by that is, now there are some churches who definitely have prison ministries, but there are other prisons who don't. You don't even have to do that. But what if you have a Get Connected group where somebody is returning back to the community and making them feel welcome, and having some resources, you know, even if it's, you know, job interviewing or preparation or something like that, or a food pantry, or, I mean, when somebody leaves prison, for the most part, they have nothing. If they're lucky, they get $100. Some states have $25, some $50, some $100. You tell me what you would do if you had no family left because you've been, you know, incarcerated a really long time, and you have $100. How long is that going to last?
Not long.
Not long. And also, by the way, you don't have an email address. You do not have a cell phone. A transportation, a job, where are you going to live? Are you going back to the place that maybe was part of the environment that caused you to go there? Because you have to have a place to go back to, you know, an address anyway. And so not every person is eligible for halfway houses. So we could go on and on and on and on. But, you know, in my perfect world, and I'm going to keep saying this, it would be not just the programming, but for people to understand that, just like you said when you started the show, these are people. And, there's so many great, another place, there are so many great organizations out there that if you wanted to get involved, for example, for men, Kairos ministry is a great ministry. Mike Barber ministry is another great ministry. Bridges to Life, another one. The Frederick Douglass Project out of New York, amazing. And that's one thing. Also, kids. So if their dad went to prison, can you imagine being a child and that maybe none of your friends have a parent in prison, and they feel embarrassed. They don't talk about it. They don't talk about it until they're maybe even ever or late in adulthood. They don't know how to handle that. They don't have the words for that. Having a big brother or some kind of organization step in and, just be available to talk through some of those feelings. Another place. There's some really good national organizations, but they're not in every community. But there's so many ways to get involved.
I believe it. What about the role of AI? Maybe I'm thinking too weird about this. The reason why I bring this up, when I was a kid, there was a movie called Demolition Man, and Bruce Willis. Yeah, no, not Bruce. Sylvester Stallone stars in it, and Wesley Snipes. And it's, in the distant future, but it's crazy because a lot of things that, they talked about and showed are kind of happening now. I mean, from the, people being weird about germs to, video phones, the fast food wars they brought up. But one of the things that got me is the imprisoned were placed in these basically cells, cryotherapy cells, and they would be like basically in induced comas throughout their sentence. But the genesis would slow down aging or basically freeze them at the state of aging. So they felt like it was a humane way so nobody would waste their, years in prison. And then they would run simulated programming through technology that would change. They would hope at least change somebody's, mental perspective, right? But what they found out is that that technology alone couldn't change the character of somebody because there was no spiritual transformation, right? And all they did was become super educated criminals when they were released, and they were at the same age. And then Wesley Snipes' character, and it's a fun movie. There's a lot of great people, Sandra Bullock's in it, but it made me think. And the reason why I'm going here is because with the role of AI, in one way, it would help with, curriculum implementation, creation, at least in some aspect. But in a weird way, I feel like it would make us almost more inhumane because we would rely on it to do the servicing and basically disconnect, from the interpersonal relationships. As somebody who's been boots on the ground and you've interacted, with these groups and these individuals, how valuable is it just to see a human being and to see somebody who really cares?
Oh my goodness. So the very first time I went in and taught the men, so it's a train-the-trainer mentorship model. Mm-hmm. And I spend 2.5 days with them so they feel very confident being a mentor over the next 6 to 9 months. And they have small groups of 4 men. And the one thing, if I were going to guess, that people in prison, if we were going to look at do an assessment on emotional intelligence, I bet their social awareness is off the charts. They have to be, right? So if we know that, first of all, I only say that because the moment I walk in, particularly the first class, and they don't know me, now some of these persons have been going back for years and they know me, but they size me up really fast, right? And they already have some story about me, and that's okay. And soon they will learn whatever that story is may not line up exactly with what they were thinking in their head. But the really cool thing is it's up to me, first of all, to build trust quickly. Yeah. And I don't see them. So the truth of the matter is I never ask about offenses or sentencing and never. That's not my job. My job is to go in and teach them some new skills so they can be the best mentor they possibly can, and ultimately really understand the content and also build this plan. But I go in, I'm curious. I love them to pieces because they challenge me. I have to be able to think quickly and answer quickly, and they ask all kinds of questions. But at the same time, they want to learn, and that desire is there. And the most refreshing thing for me is not only just the first time I go in, but I go back. So we have a model that goes that when they finish the program, and I call the facility every week, so I know where they are, and I set them up for 6 weeks for sure, and I know they're confident to do what we're asking them to do. Then what happens is, over the 6 to 9 month period, we have a formalized graduation, which is really cool because they're part of the graduation. So people who might have been quiet in the beginning, they're behind the podium and they're speaking about what mentorship or the mentee, what they've learned and the impact itself. And then then what happens is, I don't want to lose these great mentors. If they choose to stay in the program, then I teach them advanced coaching skills. And then the mentees are trained to be mentors, and it's sort of like rinse and repeat. And then eventually what happens is there'll be at least 1 or 2 men who really rise to the top, meaning they have found their purpose and they love it. And then now there's a reason to get out of bed in the morning differently, because when they can pour into somebody else, that makes them feel good. And of course, they can see the results of their work. And then we continue to do that. But eventually 1 or 2 men will, again, as I said, rise to the top. And then I will say, do you want to co-facilitate with me? And they'll say yes. And then I say, great, so we'll teach together over the next 2.5 days. We'll split it up. And then eventually they will become me, because it's not about me. It was never about me. It's really about giving them the tools so they can be successful. I think the other thing is that my program is different. So you might hear, you might have even had other guests to talk about reentry or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say yes and yes and goes like this. First, we work on the soft skills. Because any person working today, we want to work with people we want to work with, right? So we got to work on that. Then we'll work on employability skills / career development. Then we'll develop a plan for release should they get released. I do all of that because to me that's a holistic approach in working with a human being and giving them time to practice and learn those things. And the best thing that they learn, probably more than anything else, is because there's the men in the small group, they're different. They think differently, they have different backgrounds, they challenge them, and so that just elevates their ability to think through things and not get triggered, but to be able to respond and ask more questions.
I like it. I'm gonna take a couple of breaks, but I want to get back when we return. I want to talk about your legacy, right? What does when it's all said and done, your work, your legacy, the books you author, what do you want it to all mean? Y'all watching the CVMK Show. I have Dr. Kim Nugent. After this, we'll be back.
On the days I need mental clarity and peak physical performance, Superpower by CVMK Global is my to-go. It supports me whether I'm flowing through yoga, pushing heavy in the gym, or striking hard at boxing or Muay Thai. No matter how I combine training, this pre-workout keeps me energized and consistent, feeling locked in and unstoppable. Superpower always delivers. Clean energy, no crash. A non-negotiable for those days I'm pushing extra hard. What are you waiting for? Try it and let me know how it works for you.
Why are you still drinking boring protein? Sensual protein is not your average shake. It's bold cinnamon flavor, real muscle fueling power, and zero bland energy. Every sip hits different. It actually makes you want to stay consistent. If you're done settling for basic nutrition, this is your upgrade. Built by CVMK Global, a brand that moves with intensity and vision. Follow CVMK Global on Instagram and CVMK Globe on TikTok and unleash your inner beast.
Y'all get the pre-workout today. Superpower. Rosa Costa said so. I'm telling you, I'll get it today. www.cvmkglobal.store. And I got it near me. I thought I was looking for it around me. I always keep it near me. Sensual protein, y'all. This tastes like a honey bun, the cinnamon swirl flavor. 31 grams of protein, 130 calories, digestive enzymes for no bloat. www.cvmkglobal.store. All right, so legacy is it is needed, it is complex, it is something we all aim for. I think about myself, and I'm really building, right? But when I'm 105, that's what I planned. I told my wife, I was like, I'm gonna get out of here about 105. I plan to be, that'll be, Lord does, delay his return. I'm gonna exit about that time. But around that age, when it's all said and done, and people go back and they view all these clips and whatnot, my hope is that they saw somebody that was more than an entertainer, that tried to have conversations that would make people think. Maybe I didn't convert anybody, maybe I didn't change the world, but I at least made them think about something. I pondered on something that was of value, right? That's really my ultimate aim. And then obviously with the health thing, with CVMK Global, really making sure that we're honoring our temples, the temple that God has provided for us, that, we live a life that he really has desiring for us, that his sacrifice on the cross was not in vain. So that's my ultimate aim. For you to do this, right? To do this that is so complex, and you run into so many different I would say areas of interest. You'll have people that, yes, let's do it, and then there's the dark hand. Like I mean by that, like there's a jail, I forget where it's headquartered, but there's like a network that is now publicly traded on the stock market. And when I found out about it, I was like, oh, this is terrible. And then the capitalist in me was like, this makes a lot of sense, but this is still terrible, right? But it's interesting. I'm like, but none of this money is going to the right places. If it was doing that, and then it would hit, the ones that it's serving, the populace there, and we could fund programs like this, and then we could improve the quality. I wouldn't probably bat an eyelash about it, right? But I know it's not. I just know it's not. I know it's going to somebody playing golf, right? So as you continue, what does this mean for you, Dr. Kim?
So you said something a minute ago, which kind of leads into the answer, which is one of the things when I am in the prisons, the most important thing for me is when I tell them I'm coming back, because they're so used to people not keeping their word. So integrity is something that's very important to me.
No.
And they've been disappointed after disappointment after disappointment. People say things all the time and never follow through. So for me, going back to the original question, which is around legacy, is I want for the men that I have worked with to say I made a difference in their life, because it made them a better person and their life turned out.
You know what? I'll say this. I'll share this. One of my best friends, he went to jail about 10 years ago, just got on drugs, just a horrible thing, ended up, getting killed. But I grew up with him. And he will always have a place in my heart. I wish to God that he had somebody like you in there, somebody that could have connected. And I keep a letter he wrote me while being imprisoned, and it's one of those things that I wish I was better, and I look back and you hit it. It's the integrity, it's being there, it's even when people do things that land them in places where because of what they've done, whatever, how you feel about it. So they need love and support and development like all of us. And Dr. Kim, one of the reasons why I wanted you on here is because I haven't heard one politician say that. And we're about to enter into, we just had an Illinois electoral season. We're about to have another one next year with our mayor and governor's race. And then after that, then the presidential race. And I feel like we are getting away from people. And anytime we get away from people, we're headed toward a cliff. So Dr. Kim, with a couple last questions, where can the people support you, buy their books? Where can they find you?
So my books are on Amazon. So it's From Prison to Possibilities, Paving Your Path. And then also I have a website. It's Dr. Nugent, Nugent, speaks.com.
Y'all, get her books, go to the website, get it now, follow her, buy all 9 books. Support Dr. Kim Nugent. You have been absolutely fantastic. I got one more question for you. And this is where I get all my guests. If you could see one person on this show that you know personally and you could introduce me to, who would it be and why?
A person that could be on your show or has been?
No, that could be on the show, that you know that you can make the introduction.
Yes, absolutely, I do.
Who?
J.J. Villarreal.
Why?
Because if you know his story, the book and the documentary, Sing Sing, it's about his life. And he was wrongfully in prison. For 23 years he served. And so he is the most interesting, positive man, unbelievable, and shares a whole different side of prisons and things like that. He would be extraordinary.
Well, look, he has an open invite. Dr. Kim, if you want to make that happen, he can come on the show anytime. Y'all, need y'all go to the website. Go follow her. Go to Amazon. I need you to buy the book. Support her, because we need heroes like Dr. Kim, who is actually going to go into areas that a lot of us won't go into. Let's just be frank, and do the hard work, do God's work that will make all of America and all of the world better. And I need y'all, if y'all want to keep seeing amazing people like we have on a day, you know what you got to do? You got to go to YouTube, follow, subscribe, CVMK, y'all. It's where it all goes down. Obviously, we're on every podcast platform you can think of, but I need you to follow, engage, let us know what you think. And we're the best, and I do mean the best supplements are, y'all. www.cvmkglobal.store. Like Samson that I got right here. I'm telling you, it's a game. Men, MEN, I'm talking to you. It's a game changer. 3 capsules in the morning. I don't disappoint, and neither does this. www.cvmkglobal.store. And until next time, guys. Thanks.
This is the CVMK Show. Hit that subscribe button. Stay locked in for the next conversation and fuel your grind with the best supplements at cvmkglobal.store. See you on the next one.